Hi, this video will go over Unit 2, Avoiding Run-ons. So let's take a look at the definition of a run-on. The definition of a run-on occurs when two sentences are improperly connected together. Okay, so it's when we accidentally put two sentences that shouldn't be together, and we're left confused. We're not sure what's going on in the sentence. So I'm going to highlight that yellow, that sentence that I just highlighted. Okay. A common misconception is that a run on is a really long sentence. No, we can have really long sentences, folks. In fact, next semester, we are really going to spend a lot of time looking at different sentence structures in literature and how authors use proper punctuation to create these really complex sentences that have a lot of meaning in them. So just because a sentence is long doesn't mean that it's a run-on. As long as it's properly punctuated, then you're good to go on a sentence, okay? Most run-ons occur because writers either forget punctuation or they try to use a comma to join two sentences, okay? And that's called a comma splice. And we'll talk more specifically about that here in a second. Okay. So, how do we get a run on? The first one is lack of punctuation. Okay. So, let's take a look at this sentence. The contestant hesitated, the buzzer sounded. So, if we are going to be identifying subjects and verbs, let's take a look at this run on sentence. The contestant hesitated, the buzzer sounded. So, our first subject is contestant, person, place, or thing. What happened to that contestant? Hesitated. The contestant hesitated. Then we have the buzzer sounded. Second subject, the buzzer. Verb sounded. So we have I see with no punctuation right here. So we have a run on. Okay. The second reason that we might create a run-on is a comma splice, and that's using a comma to improperly connect two sentences. So take a look at this sentence. The judge entered the courtroom, comma, everyone rose. So again, folks, it's really important to be identifying subjects and verbs. The judge entered. There's my first I see, okay? Then my second I see, everyone rose, subject and verb. And we have this comma right here that's creating a comma splice that therefore is creating a run-on sentence. Okay. So let's talk about how we can fix a run-on. How can we fix a run-on? There are four different ways. First one, use a period. So replace that comma that we had up here in this comma splice example with just a plain old period, creating I see period, I see, period. Okay. Second way is with a comma and a fanboy. And remember that the fanboys, the fancy term for that is a conjunctive, coordinating conjunction. Okay. A coordinating conjunction. That's just a fancy way to say fanboy. So the judge entered the courtroom, comma, so everyone rose. So we have our nice little comma and our fanboy. The second way is to include a semicolon in between each I see. So the judge entered the courtroom, semicolon, everyone rose. So I see, semicolon, I see. Okay, now remember, folks, when we use the semicolon, we are showing a relationship between these two I Cs. We're telling our reader these I Cs, these independent clauses, are related to one another. Okay, just like with the fanboy, we're showing a relationship between the two I Cs by selecting the correct fanboy. Okay, so for and nor, but, or, yet, so, each of those have a different meaning. So we want to show our reader what kind of relationship these two independent clauses have by selecting the correct fanboy. Okay, we would not want to use the word or right in this sentence because it wouldn't make sense. The judge entered the courtroom or everyone rose. That's not the right relationship. We want to be selective when we are selecting our our coordinating conjunction. All right, the fourth way we can avoid a run-on sentence is to replace that comma splice or that run-on with a semicolon and a transitional word, okay? So it's really important, you guys, that we are aware of the proper punctuation when we are creating these types of sentences. So the judge entered the courtroom, semicolon, transitional word thus, comma, everyone rose. So it's essentially I see, semicolon, and I'm going to put conjunctive adverb, you guys, because that is the proper term for these transitional words, comma, I see. Okay. So it's I see, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, I see. A lot of kids like to forget that comma, but we really need that comma. Okay. Again, that conjunctive adverb is going to show that relationship between these two ICs. So it essentially is saying the judge entered the courtroom, therefore everyone rose. Thus, meaning the cause and then the effect. The cause, the judge walked into the courtroom. The effect, everyone rose. So you want to be thoughtful in choosing that conjunctive adverb. Okay, and then the last reason why we would use a semicolon, or avoid a run-on sentence. Sorry, guys, it's early. Okay, is we would use a subordinating conjunction to make one of the sentences into a dependent clause. Okay, so as the judge entered the courtroom, comma, everyone rose. So essentially creating DC, comma, I see. Or we could flip that sentence around and we could have essentially I see DC. Everyone rose as the judge entered the courtroom. Remember when we have that, when we have our I see followed by our DC, there's no comma there. Only when we have dependent clause followed by independent clause. Okay. So make sure that you understand the 5 ways that you can avoid a run-on or fix a run-on sentence, the 2 reasons why you get a run-on sentence, because we want to be very thoughtful in our punctuation this semester.